Where do I start? Welcome to the Confessional. A lot has happened since the last time kind of like sat down and chilled and talked about why things ended up being the way they were. But I usually use the seasonal confessionals as an opportunity to just kind of like have a less of an educational or interviewing, or like we're on the mission trying to get to the top of the top 10 or the bottom of the bottom 10, and more so just like a perfume lounge. We get together, I show you the things that came my way, what I found interesting, what I found new and inspiring, what maybe not so inspiring. Let's get started and see how the storytelling and the juices are gonna unwind today. I have been traveling for the last third of the summer, and I got quite a few packages in the mail when I came back. My Decant subscriptions. I do like the idea of Decant services, and I've been subscribed to quite a few over the years. The one that I kind of keep dipping in and out of because they have really interesting selection is Scandie. They are becoming less and less enticing to me, though, partially because of the way that they rebottled their decants. They put a lot of effort and kind of custom design into it, but I'm not sure if it came out any better than it was before with more generic decants and like the plasticky things. It doesn't stand. It's like a lot of things about this particular decant design actually takes me out of convenience and comfort that they were providing before, but I can see that they wanted to make it their own. Also, their prices have been steadily kind of crawling up, and the selection of brands sometimes I find quite questionable. There's too much of that Instagram niche, what I call it, like no name, expensive niche brands that have no pedigree. They're coming from nowhere and going nowhere. It's not quite what I'm looking for. So I usually, what I do with Scandie, like just in case you're interested, or like what I probably would prefer to do with any decant service that I would subscribe to, is I get a chunk, but I get them like every once in a while. Luckily for me, Scandie has that option. You can get 3 decants every 3 months. Oddly enough, for me, it works better than 1 decant a month or several decants a month is just plain too much. Just like, let's call spade a spade. 3 in 3 months is just enough. Is this like, oh, here's my seasonal birthday with like a bunch of things to try. I placed a very, very blind but lucky order this time. Everything that I got, I'm really intrigued by. The first one is gonna be Misfit by Arquiste, one of the most elusive niche brands that has exquisite bottle packaging. I have one of their bottles. Very interesting compositions, but they are not really sold anywhere. Therefore, they're not really known. I presume that's where they're not sold more than they could be, even though they have really interesting compositions. Misfit is dedicated to the nostalgia for the past bohemians. Is when those pashmina shawls and shawls were nearly soaked in patchouli oil, which back in the days when perfumery was not as vibrant as diverse because the organic chemistry was not as developed in that area. So a lot of the bohemians, it was very fashionable to wear a scent, but there was not that much to choose from, and variations on potent, powerful, deep, patchouli-centric scents was the thing. And they tried to capture that nostalgia for the bohemian rebel of the past persona in the Misfit. When it comes to the notes that your nose might pick up, is Calabrian bergamot at the beginning. Yeah, there is something, greeny citrusy about the opening. French lavender, definitely. Styrax, patchouli, and Venezuelan tonka bean. To me, it is indeed kind of lemony, dusty, somewhat, it has this a little bit of a dated feel to it. I'm not sure how many people would vibe with it in the modern times, but I like it. I love stuff like that. And it's not too 80s. When a lot of people say, oh, it's dated, oh, it smells like an old woman, these days, they actually refer to the perfumes of the 80s. This, I would say, sends me straight to much, much older era. But it's elevated, slightly dusty, slightly closeted type of patchouli. So it's not really raw, it's not very oily, and it's not very earthy. It's bookish, in a way. A little bit nauseating, personally to me, the sweet base with the lavender. Because when lavender doesn't remind me of a lavender latte, and it's sweet, I tend to struggle with like syrupy, heavy lavender. Notable exception is for Noir by Serge Lutens, but there it's still a play on the kind of caramelly lavender. Here, this lavender is definitely enjoying its retirement with some sweet base. I like it, but I'm not sure how much I would love it if I was considering a full-size bottle. I have 8 ml, so I have time to think about it. The second fragrance that I got from Scentbird is Dead Cool Madonna Lily. Oh, that's not it. Here it is. Here's Madonna Lily. And I got it because it was called Lily, and because Dead Cool is a brand that I was curious about. Maybe I should do it like this so you can see the bottle representation. It does smell like a light, floaty lily type of scent akin to Cartier Basevole. However, lily as a flower is not really mentioned here, and I find that if anything, I would think that this is some kind of floral bergamot. However, that's still not the marketing composition. They say that the notes that they think we should feel in this fragrance is sandalwood, black pepper, amber, exotic woods, and moss. But to me, it's like white lilies and bergamot. I love it. It's very easy to wear. It invigorated my interest in Dead Cool. I don't know much about the brand. If you do, please share your thoughts. There are like a lot of these nouveau, low-key, cool, minimalistic, but more like basic bitch type of brands. I don't want to name anyone just in case they don't see themselves that way. But like I find this is a very common theme in new niche brands, and this is why a lot of them fall into this Instagram niche, like when you see those posts and it was made in Canva. And it's good because Canva, like anybody who uses templates for what they do, elevate themselves at least out of the rookie mistakes that they could have. And the same with the niche brands and their like new niche brands and their compositions. If you're using certain templates of how to compose a brand, how to market a brand, and what kind of fragrances to go for, you clearly protect yourself from some odd idiosyncratic mistakes. But you also often prevent yourself from doing anything original. So I feel like Dead Cool is trying to walk that line. I like this lily bergamote woody freshness, but is that special? No. But it's one of those, like, that's what I wish Jo Malone was doing. Let's put it that way. I wish everyone had an access to like somewhat twisted, somewhat unusual citrusy florals like this, instead of what we usually get in the designer perfume shelves in Ulta, Sephora, and yada yada yada. And even though they do bring some of those Instagram niche brands like Fleur, for example, it's so watered down, it's so redundant, it's not even secondary, it's so generic, the compositions that I detect in those brands, that it's just not worth talking about. It's not even worth going there, considering how massively explosive the new niche brand space is. These kind of things like Madonna Lily by That Cool, that's something I would love to see in Sephora and Ulta. I would absolutely adore it if that's what Jo Malone was producing. To me, even Jo Malone could have pushed their boundary a little bit. I think they're playing it way too safe with these kind of like expensive body mists, essentially, compositions. This is cool. I like it. I enjoy wearing it in the heat of Florida September. But is it the most exquisite, the most interesting contemporary lily scent? Nah. We'll see though. I've been humbled before by fragrances that I thought were nothing special, and then I would wear them absolutely to the ground and start chasing a full-size bottle. It has happened before, so you'll have to wait to see these in less drops so we can talk about my final impressions and where do they actually fall in the priority hierarchy of my olfactory library. Second Arquiste, Indigo Smoked, a fairly recent release. I think all of these are like fairly new. Maybe Misfit has been on the market for a while, but I think Madonna Lily, Indigo Smoke are like in the current era of perfume making. Indigo Smoke, smoky black tea fragrances. See? Notes of the year. I was looking for incense and the tea fragrances, and that promises us to deliver on both accounts. Lapsang, Uchong Accord, so this like smoky milky tea, vetiver, apricot accord, pine tar, and incense. Every time a perfume brand releases a perfume that has ink blue or indigo in their names, I already know that I should expect some kind of like semi-depressed mineral vetiver, and I don't know why the association became so permanent in the olfaction design. So I'm very relieved to find one fragrance that talks about indigo smoky fragrances that does not involve this industrial asthenia, the absolute void of joy in all aspects of olfactory design. It's just, you tell me. Indigo Smoke is a notable and very favorable exception to the rule. This is thoughtful, stylish, and 100% unisex fragrance, like pretty much all smoky tea fragrances are. You have to be a gender Nazi in order to try to pin tea as masculine or feminine. Thank God, at least we got we got our tea back. All of the gender identities can wear a tea or smoky fragrance and enjoy it. In the current cultural climate, thank you for that. Like, I'm grateful that something doesn't have to be fought through the gender lens. So Indigo Smoke is a very reliable representation, what you're thinking about, this kind of like milky, smoky, Earl Grey-ish tea. The sweetness of apricot and kind of the substantiality that incense and pine tar accords give to the fragrance are very much muted and on the background. They just kind of support its longevity and give it a little bit of a more of an interesting development as the time goes by. I so enjoy the smoky tea accord here. I'm more of a smoke Earl Grey tea fragrances kind of person. A lot of people really love the mate green tea, especially jasmine tea part. And jasmine tea is just jasmine. You know, if you've been in this community for like I've over a decade, rose jasmine fragrances, it's one of those, it's like plaid skirts for fall, you know what I mean? Or like 10 ways to wear a scarf. It's been done and overdone, and it will be done over and over again. That's something we can't escape. But if I can, I prefer not to go to jasmine tea territory unless I have to. But smoky Earl Grey teas often go into either somewhat hollow and bitter territory. This is when perfume companies declare to have tea and tobacco. Often tobacco to me smells like an Earl Grey tea. This will go beautifully with more of a dry cold rather than rainy weather, but a rainy weather or humid weather in general, to me, sometimes surprisingly brings some notes forward and makes them way more perceptible, way more loud, which for some perfume, it just makes them feel like they're lasting longer than they otherwise would. But for some, it kind of makes them nauseating and it breaks the structure of the scent. It kind of makes one note way louder than everything else, and then you just don't enjoy it as much. But I love it in a dry climate. I feel it would work so beautifully in the mountains. Like on a chilly morning somewhere up north in the mountains. This is like a 10-minute meditation with a warm tea in your hand. In Norway, I did my usual thing. I attended a few of cultural events, from like the highbrow symphony opening season in Oslo to more of a contemporary like Oslo Runway. I found it interesting that Norway is often lumped together with other Nordic countries such as Sweden and Denmark, but when it comes to development of indie industry, is still finding its footing. It will not be hard for you to find some indie perfume brands or niche perfume brands in Sweden or Denmark, more Sweden so. But in Norway, there were not that many. I got lucky though. I got to visit and have a bit of a chit chat with Dag Laska, who is the founder of Son Venin. It translates as my sin, if I'm not mistaken, from Norwegian. And it was fun. It was by chance. It was really a random but very lucky occurrence, and we hit it off. We talked about the influencer world, we talked about events and conferences, we talked about what does it even mean to be a national brand, because the supply chain is so distributed. What really makes a brand Norwegian, what makes a brand American, what makes a brand this or that. It was so much fun. So Doug gave me a sampler. So I may, if you guys are interested in authentic, small, privately owned niche brands from specific countries, we can start with Son Venin as a separate review. Here I'm just gonna tell you about kind of highlights of what I've learned so far. So the background of Son Venin's founders are in graphic design and kind of like high-end marketing. So when they gave me their brochure that illustrates the concepts of the design, when they're trying to find this sweet spot between hedonistic comforting hygge that Nordic countries are so known for, and also the conceptual structured minimalism that is so characteristic of industrial design that comes from Nordic countries, like think IKEA in a way, that kind of conquered the world with the way they see budget-friendly, structural, multifunctional design of interior objects. So that was their way, as far as I understand it, to how to start composing their core collection. I mean, you know, I do love me some Nordic hygge. I'm always envious of conceptual contemporary minimalism, because I feel I'm more like a more is more person. So every time I see a very well crafted black and white photography, or, you know, really, really polished, sleek typography, it just gets my admiration and awe, because like that's love it, live it. So not me, because I'll just keep decorating, you know what I mean? Like if I was put in charge of their marketing materials, like it would not be desirable for this kind of aesthetic, that's for sure. But I love it as a grateful outsider to experience something like that, and also to get personal remarks, to reason about how they approached collaborating with French perfumers in order to design the olfactive compositions, so that then they would be the way that supply chains, as far as I understand, to make it a Norwegian brand, the final stages of mixing and assembly of perfume has to happen in Norway. So they collaborate with French perfumers. They make these kind of like matrices, and then all of the components arrive in Norway, and then the perfumes actually get mixed, macerated, and bottled in Norway. They do sell, if you happen to be in Oslo, I think going to Oslo and not stopping by Venin for their collection sampler is a waste of time. And again, as I said, there are not that many authentic, independently owned niche perfume houses in Norway. So this is, I would say, like it has to be on your map. So they only sell it, as far as I know, in Norway and in their boutiques. I was lucky enough to be there to get the sampler. And if you guys are super curious to hear about each one of them in detail, we can do that. Otherwise, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fragrances. We would be here the whole hour. And I need to show you more of my haul. Notably, I tried them all. I did find that there is kind of the overall theme of this molecular perfumery with a twist. That's what I find infinitely curious and interesting. My only concern for the modern brands who go that route is not to become too subtle. It seems like we exist now in the polar world of these very demure, skin-like body mist type of perfumery world, and beast modes such as Creed Ventus, Baccarat, forbid, and things like that. Nothing wrong with them. It's just they absolutely destroy your nose, especially if you wear them repeatedly and in large quantities. So this definitely falls into the first category. And I find that both polarities have been a bit overdone at this point. And I always cherish the opportunity when brands trying to tactfully kind of cross over back and forth and find some less explored niches somewhere in between. Give it some dynamic projection, give it some change in time, but also let's not make it cause a brain and nose fatigue within 5 minutes, shall we? Just an idea. So I think they are really trying to walk that line especially with their newer releases. That said, we talked and I wore them for a while, and then he asked like, all right, Maria, you gotta make your mind. Which one's your favorite? And I thought, I had to walk around my mental palace of all the perfumes I've ever had. I've tried, I haven't tried, and what I'm kind of looking forward to, considering the olfaction, design, and science trends. And to my and Doug's surprise, I chose one of the OGs by them, and that's a perfume that's devoted to his birthday. I didn't know it at the time, but this is 0905. And to me, first of all, let me show you kind of the bottle. The packaging is very detail oriented. Every single piece, every single sticker, everything was very thought through, which made unpackaging almost like I felt like I was ruining a piece of art. It was so thoughtful, the way that they designed the packaging. I mean, that the background and the conceptual graphic design really shows here. And I love rounded bottles. It does remind me a little bit of Arquiste, but Arquiste bottles are a little bit different, actually. I did compare them before. So 0905, I chose it as my favorite, and to reserve the precious real estate in my olfactive library for it, because it was this unbelievable balance between soft and demure, comforting, kind of like pillow talk nature of it, with essentially a fougere structure. And for those of you who haven't smelled a classic fougere in a while, fougères, I mean, is anything in the perfume talk, it's a meta layer of language, right? So fougere as a scent profile usually is supposed to give you an illusion, again, classically, not necessarily these days, of green leaves, of usually they will mention some like vetiver, maybe patchouli, maybe moss, something that should give you these allusion to that's what ivy would smell like, these thick green leafed branches, leaves, that kind of substantiality of green smell. Lavender is very often a contributor to that profile, but it doesn't have to be lavender. And sometimes lavender, as we discussed in the modern years, became a part of a gourmand category. So just by saying that you have lavender for your perfume, it doesn't make you fougere. Fougères often are kind of green with certain amount of spiciness or leatheriness. So it's this kind of play with more cerebral, less sweet or less fresh. It's almost easier to say what they don't have than what they do have to make something a fougere. And here, to give you an example, we have a very comfortable fougere composition. Top notes would be ginger, cardamom, and sagebrush. Heart would be dry lavender, pine sap, leather, and base, amber, cedar wood, and dry woods. However, this is the most cuddly, demure, and it's like a pillow talk fougere. This is the best wine liner I can give you. If you can imagine that fougere could be made into cuddly pillow talk type of fragrance, it is one of the more of a masculine leaning by their own description within the brand, because again, they're trying to satisfy people's expectations. You know me, I like this gender politics is just like, it was all invented in the 1950s to begin with by the rise of advertising and marketing agencies. It only benefits them really to have that kind of distinction, and none of that really existed in the culture and the perfume chemistry before. But sure, if it helps people to navigate mentally without smelling something, so they call it a masculine leaning hygge fougere. To me, this is pillow talk. He, she, them. It's just as long as we're sharing the same pillow, you know? I love it. I love it. It's just, to me, it's the epitome of sinful hygge. I think the 0905 is the fragrance that describes the brand the best, to my opinion. It's like the one that will give you an understanding of DNA of this brand. I don't have anything like that. I love it. I'm so lucky to have a full-size bottle because they are not easy to find as an independently owned niche Norwegian fragrance brand. Good luck. But I have one. I've been a good girl most of summer, all right? So I even sold a few perfumes. Actually, would you like to hear me about like my kind of departures? Because been quite a few this year that I've let go silently behind the scenes. Please leave a comment below if you want to talk about those who are no longer with us. This, however, satisfies my rule for mindful hedonism shopping because this is a mid-price niche. This is my favorite category. I got it on a good discount, and this is the brand that I'm exploring, focused on exploring this year. So hopefully I'll be able to give you a really decent brand concept and fragrances review soon. And these are the fragrances that I got by Jacques Fath. I was introduced by this brand by you. When we were doing our notes of the year, one of them is Lilas. And many people in the comments told me, you gotta try Lilac Path. You gotta try Lilac Path by Jacques Fath. It's the most imaginative, beautiful niche lilac scent. It's really great. I did. I love it. I ranked it as my top 3. And that kind of opened up Jacques Fath to me. I was very confused about the brand identity because it seemed new and less known, and yet the name itself was quite a historic name in the designer world. So this was just an honest mistake. Velour Boise, the Velvety Woods. I have one. I don't know why I bought the second one. So that means that there will be a link down below with a very hefty discount code that you can get yourself a sizable decant of this to try, to wear, to enjoy for a price of a latte. Because I need to pay more attention. The other one that is new to me is Loden. And that was one of those green fragrances. I keep trying to sample green fragrances. It's not quite my category. I rarely like them. Even as I showed you with fougères, it's kind of like I need it to be not a typical fougère for me to like it. So this is this typical bitter Artemisia kind of green herbs fragrance, Loden. The beautiful green color though, and I do dig the bottles. They're a little bit clunky in my view. They're kind of they'll somehow feel large, but the whole thing is very well made, especially for the price that I got them for. So we'll keep testing that. This is Rosso Epicureo. It's their gourmand. That's a very unusual gourmand. There's something here that is sweet but disturbing. I'll need to look into it. If you've tried any of the Jacques Faths, please leave a comment below what your kind of top favorites and disappointments were. This is a cheat. This is a cheat, but I just love it too much. This is Tempete-d-Automne, the leaves of fall, or the something of fall. I did have a decant from my subscriber. Thank you so much for letting me try it. I loved it. I used it up. I think it was 5 ml. I bought myself a teeny tiny bottle, 15 ml. It's so cute. I bought it because like 15 ml will be fine. It will be fine. It will be fine. And I started using it, and to me it's such a spicy, soft, enveloping, but toward the falling leaves fall type of fragrance. Usually enveloping cuddly fragrances are pink pepper, vanilla, you know, they're somewhat powdery, they're sweet-ish in some shape or form. And to have a falling leaves type of scent that still feels cuddly, soft, and comforting is not that common. Usually falling leaves fragrances are green patchouli-esque, bitter or sour. This is not that case. So I used up a decant, lawfully bought myself a full-size 15 ml bottle, and then I looked at it and was like, there's no way I'm gonna like go through it in no time, and I got myself 50 ml. So the Tempete-d-Automne, I need to learn my French, is like a third, at this point it's a third bottle. So I have a backup now, and I will make them available on my website. So if you're looking for a sampler, there's not a single place where you can actually sample them to my knowledge. So I got you covered if you want to, if you need to. And I think the last one here is this massive, I didn't know they came in so many sizes. This is like massive bottle size of Vers le Sud. And look at this. This is like a bucket. I don't know how to describe it, but I've been spraying it like a maniac in my living room. It has this very sophisticated, to me, interior smell. So what could give me the interior? It's probably woody, maybe it's even leathery. It has this contemplative old wood type of feel to it. Have you ever been in one of the buildings that have wooden coverings that are like over 100 years old? Old wood has a very specific smell to it. It's maybe not even the wood itself, but everything that it's been treated with, and maybe the wetness, and maybe, I don't know if it's mold bacteria or fungi or just general slow decay of wood as it happens with time, or maybe it's the lacquers and the paints. You tell me. I'm not an expert in a restoration of interiors, since these are very new and I have plenty of it. I will try to wear it as a personal fragrance, but like my immediate kind of where my mind went immediately, this is like the most ideal scent to spray if you want to feel like you live in an old mansion. It's kind of like dominating my perception right now, so I'll give it some time. Just for the fun of it, check this out. It's all the sizing that they have. Isn't that insane? It's so cute. Just to compare the largest and the smallest. I know it's silly, but if you have a perfume shelf or a perfume library like I do, you'll appreciate the form factor of the bottles. And that is the confessional for the end of summer and beginning of fall. And when it comes to the next set of indulgences, that will be the end of fall. We will see what kind of whiffs of sin came my way with the fall weather. And those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please do. I noticed that less than 50% of people who watch the channel are subscribed to it. It really does help, I assure you. So if you like what you see, if you're getting good vibes from my channel, if these videos give you good energy, please subscribe. Like, it really does mean a lot to me. If you have any questions, comment section is down below. I try to reply as often, as fast as I can. Also, tell me what indulgences did you have. Let's talk to each other. Let's be more social. I want to know, like, did you blind buy something? Did you make some good decisions, some not so good decisions? Did you sell any bottles lately? Anybody? Anything? I want to know. If you have any subscriptions, pros and cons, just tell me everything. I will be waiting for your comments impatiently.